Before we start, kindly inform us if you can hear us now. We've done it twice in the last couple of minutes. Please inform us if you can hear us now. Can you hear us now? Sound check. Check mic 1, 2. Please let us know if you can hear us now. I am nearsighted and I cannot read the comments on the screen. I just open my mouth and start talking. Can you see? What are they saying?
But your father is calling. Yes, they can hear.
They can hear me now? Okay. So, take 3. Good evening, Philippines. Good afternoon, Middle East, maayong gabi, Visayas, and Mindanao. Tonight, we're going to have our free IELTS and OET Writing Masterclass. Now, why is the writing subtest the most important? That is because consistently for both IELTS and OET, it is in writing where we get the lowest national average. Later on, you're going to find out how well we perform as a nation in both IELTS writing and OET writing. Now, we're celebrating our 14th anniversary. Yay! 9.09er is turning 14 years old already. Thank you so much for being with us all these years. And what do we have for you? Our Buy One, Take Two promo for this month. So what's Buy One, Take Two? You avail one review program, you get 2 for free. Say for instance, if you pay 4,000 pesos, that's inclusive of IELTS, OET, and PTE already. Aside from that, we're also going to give you a referral incentive of 500 pesos. That's for every referral. FYI, the referral incentive is not just for 9.09er reviewees. Even if you are not a reviewee of 9er, you can refer students to us and then please send us the names of the persons you have referred from March 1 to 31, and we're going to release the payout or the incentives come the first week of April. Every week, we're going to determine the lucky winner who is going to receive a refund of the review fee. But what's the basis? The person with the most number of referrals for that week. But what about the grand prize this March? Come the first week of April, we're going to announce the lucky winner who's going to get a free IELTS examination. But if that person is taking OET, then 50% discount on OET examination fee. But what if the winner has passed IELTS and OET already? Then that means to say we're going to give it in the form of cash. So how much is the grand prize? It's 11,300 pesos. Speaking of grand prize, in January, Miss Joy Amatosa was our winner and she received her 11,300 already. What about the month of February? Tonight, we're going to announce who's going to win 11,300 pesos. It could be you, so please make sure to stick until the end of our masterclass. Now, I'll turn you over to Sir Philip, but before that, while he's still doing something in the kitchen, I'd like to thank the very helpful nurses of Medical Center Taguig. For those of you who are not informed yet, I was admitted to the hospital earlier this week, but thanks to the following for taking care of me, the OR nurses, namely Mariel Carmelita, Leia Madrigalejo, and Lucky Morales. Also, I would like to thank the nurses who took care of me on the 6th floor. They are Jackie Lu Mascardo, Regine De La Cruz, and Raymar Olivera. Of course, to my doctors Jeffrey Samuel Ko and Dr. Katrina Bolseco, referred by my beshi, Miss Sarah Margaret Palmes of Chinese Gen. Again, to all the nurses who took care of me at Medical Center Taguig, mabuhay po kayo. So now, I'll turn you over to Sir Philip and I'd like him to invite you to attend his 5-day IELTS intensive classes that are going to start tomorrow. Here's Sir Philip.
Good evening, guys. Welcome to our live discussion tonight. Starting tomorrow, Monday to Friday, from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock Philippine time, I would be having my IELTS intensive class over at Zoom, and I strongly invite you to consider attending. It's very important for you to have good and guided support as you prepare for your exam. Our feedback from previous generations of Niner students, of those who attended this class, has been very and consistently positive. It's important that you are able to prepare for your tests as soon as possible and you get ready as soon as possible as well. We understand that quite a lot of you are busy and you are just making time in order for you to get ready for the exam. If that's your case, then it's important for you to accelerate your preparation so that a lot can happen in a limited span of time. This is the idea behind the intensive course. It's a 5-day program where we discuss the 4 subtests in the IELTS: listening, reading, writing, and speaking, in a way that allows you to really progress in your preparation for this. So why don't you try it out? In case, of course, that you're not able to attend all 5 days of the intensive program, then fortunately, we have uploaded equivalent lectures in our dashboard. Because as I said, we understand that you guys are busy. Maybe you have duty, maybe you have family responsibilities, and would be unable to join the live classes. That's fine, of course. And we wouldn't want you to miss out just because of that. Of course, other things may be of greater priority than review. However, if you can join us live over at Zoom for the next 5 days, that is something that is very helpful and something that would allow you to get ready for your exam sooner rather than later. So why don't you check it out? The classes are interactive. This means that you can ask questions, and I can answer, and we can answer them instantaneously, which makes a world of difference when it comes to merely viewing a video. And hopefully this is enough for you to consider maybe joining us tomorrow or in the days and weeks or months to come. So, Irvin?
By the way, Sir Brian did his IELTS writing program recently, and he asked his attendees, what is it that they want us to provide you as benefits? So this March, we're going to upload new classes on our dashboard, namely content speaking, content writing, listening skills enhancement, reading skills enhancement, common mistakes in writing task 1, common mistakes in writing task 2, and common mistakes in speaking. But what about April? Because we're always thinking of something new to offer every month. This April, I'm glad to announce that we're going to offer our speaking program for the love of the nurses who are targeting the United States of America. But why speaking? For those of you who do not know yet, it's okay to get any grade in listening, reading, and writing in America, as long as your speaking is 7 and the overall band is 6.5. That's why you are our boss. We easily give in to your request this April. That's something new to look forward to, our free speaking program. So I'd like to mention as well that right now we already have 36 qualified coaches for IELTS and OET, but I'd like to grab this opportunity to announce our hiring. Yes, we are hiring. So every week we've shared this on our social media pages that we're looking for additional IELTS coaches and OET coaches. We've reached 36, but our head coaches, Miss Diane and Miss Isa, told me that we need 4 more. So if you know anyone you think who is qualified to apply as an IELTS coach or OET coach at 9.09er, just tell them to message me personally or to message 9.09er's official Facebook account. Which one is our official Facebook account? Knowing that there are plenty of 9.09ers on Facebook. This one that you're using and watching our Facebook Live for tonight. That's our official Facebook account with more than 120,000 followers. So now, without further ado, because we've had delays in the beginning due to technical problems, we're going to officially start our free IELTS and OET Writing Masterclass. First, I'll ask Sir Philip right here to discuss the format of OET writing. Then I'll butt in and enter to talk about the IELTS writing format. So, Sir Philip, what's OET writing?
The writing subtest for the OET is something that is quite different from the IELTS exam. For one thing, it's a lot shorter. The OET writing is 45 minutes long. This 45 minutes is divided into two. The first 5 minutes and then the remaining 40 minutes. For the first 5 minutes, the only thing that candidates are allowed to do is to read their case notes. Case notes are like your chart. It's what you know so far regarding your patient. OET, after all, is a healthcare focused English test. Unlike the IELTS exam, which is quite a lot, which is a general English test. So the concept here is that the professional, shall be writing a letter. You shall have 40 minutes to write a letter to a fellow healthcare professional. This is a handover document from the candidate, a healthcare professional, to somebody else on the healthcare team. Unlike listening and reading, which will be identical for all the 12 healthcare professions that OET is good for, writing, on the other hand, just like speaking, is profession specific. What this means is that if you're a nurse, you're going to get situations and conditions that are familiar for people who took up nursing. If you're a pharmacist, on the other hand, or a dietitian, or a doctor, or a medical technologist, then you're going to get material that is familiar for your profession as well. So you have 40 minutes in order to craft a handover document from you to another member of the team. This is something that requires quite a lot of planning ahead of time. Requires quite a lot of judgment calls in determining whether a piece of information that you find in the case notes, is this something that I'm going to include? Is this something I'm not going to include? In what order am I going to put it? Which information do I put it together with? So therefore, when it comes to the OET, quite a lot of the initial time has to be devoted to planning, to brainstorming, and to analyzing what is the material that is in front of you. And then after that, once you have a clear framework with which to approach the material, your job is to translate this understanding into text, into writing. So you see from the very beginning that doing well in OET writing requires two things. One, analysis, understanding the situation, knowing what the other member of the team needs in order to perform care. And on the other, language, mastery of the grammar and the tenses and the paragraphing, etc. During class, we work on both. There are some similarities and differences with the IELTS writing test. So Irvin, wouldn't you agree?
So for those of you who just joined us, Sir Philip earlier talked about the format of OET writing. OET is for healthcare workers planning to go to UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. It's just that if you're targeting other destinations like US or Canada, then IELTS is more recognized. There are more institutions that accept IELTS results in these two countries. And this is exactly the reason why worldwide, IELTS has the most number of examinees compared to other English examinations. To add to that, IELTS is not just for healthcare workers. It's for everyone applying for fiancé visa, spouse visa, working visa, immigrant visa, and student visa. So what about IELTS writing? It's further subdivided into two. Task 1 is different for academic and general training, whereas writing task 2 is exactly the same for everyone. Before the start of our Facebook Live session, I spoke to Sir Philip and asked him, do you think we can talk about everything like OET writing, IELTS writing task 2, and IELTS writing task 1 in just 1 hour? And both of us said no, because we want to take our time. We don't want to rush. So what's the good news, guys? We're going to conduct a separate Facebook Live session exclusively for writing task 1. That's on March 28th. That's 3 Saturdays. Today is 3 Sundays. Yeah, 3 Sundays from now. Writing task 1 Masterclass. So, tonight, we're going to focus on writing task 2. And what is this for academic and general training? Essay writing. In the actual examination, you'll be given a theme or a topic. And based on this, you're supposed to write at least 2 250 words. Now kindly take note that this is the minimum. Why? The moment you fail to reach 250 words, chances are you're going to get a minimal grade for your first criterion, which is task response. And this is why we want everyone in the actual examination to do everything in your capacity to reach 250 words. What about the maximum? If you look at the official website of IELTS, www.ielts.org or Cambridge Books, they don't say anything about the maximum number of words. It's just that if you look at the test booklet in the actual examination, it says you're given maximum time limit. So in task 1, that's 20 minutes. In task 2, 40 minutes. This is why we don't really recommend that you write super long essays. Why? A long essay does not necessarily guarantee a higher band score. Kindly remember that. So I've attended writing workshops ever since I started teaching IELTS in 2006. That's why in my last 15 years of teaching IELTS and in my last 14 years of operating Niner, I've met more than 20 of the 35 IELTS examiners in the Philippines, and this is an important lesson I've learned from them and would like to share with you guys for tonight. It is best that you limit your essay to 350 words. Clarification, I am not saying you're going to get a penalty if you write more than 350 words. But the suggestion of IELTS examiners is to limit it to 350 words in order for you to finish both writing tasks in 1 hour. In the actual test booklet, you will see task 1, 20 minutes, task 2, 40 minutes. But it's not as if the test supervisor is going to collect your output after 20 minutes and 40 minutes respectively. What is it that the test supervisor is going to do in the actual examination? You're given 1 hour to finish both. So it doesn't really matter how many minutes you spend for each. What's most important, both of them are completed in 1 hour. Now guys, let's talk about the value. Task 1 in the IELTS, 33% of your grade. Task 2, 66%. In OET, there is just 1 writing task. But in IELTS, now the question is, so which one am I supposed to write first in the actual examination? Consistently, all 9.09er lecturers are reminded to inform their reviewees, to inform everyone, it is best that you start with writing task 2 in the actual exam. Why? Imagine you're done with writing task 2, which means to say your only problem now is writing task 1. But when I attended the international conference in Shanghai, December 1 to 5, 2017, where I met 2 big bosses of IELTS in Asia, namely Dr. Victoria Clark and Dr. Joanna Motoram, I've learned from them that 20% of the Filipinos cannot finish both tasks in 1 hour. Imagine, 1 out of 5 Filipinos cannot finish the 2 tasks. You don't want to get a lower grade in the actual examination just because the writing task is unfinished. So here we are telling you, before you register for the examination, make sure that you can consistently finish 2 tasks within 1 hour. But what if, God forbid, I'm not saying you're one of those, but what if you're one of the 20% of the Filipinos who cannot finish both tasks in the actual exam? I'll give you 2 possible scenarios. You finished task 2. But then again, you were not able to finish task 1. Then that means to say you expect a deduction because your task 1 does not have a conclusion. But now, imagine you finished writing task 1, but you were not able to finish your writing task 2. The deduction is twice as much. Why? Because the value of task 2 is twice as much as the value of your writing task 1. So IELTS examinees worldwide, in the actual examination, start with writing task 2 because the value of this is 66% of your grade, whereas the value of task 1 is just 33% of your grade. Now, let us move on to OET. We're going to talk about the national average. I guess I've mentioned that earlier, that we're going to talk about how we as a nation perform in writing in general. So later, I'll talk about the average in IELTS writing. But Sir Philip, will you please inform our audience, our subscribers, how well do we Filipinos perform in OET writing?
When you look at the most recent test statistics that are available in the OET website, you can see that when you look at the data for Filipinos, for candidates of the OET who are of Filipino nationality, roughly 43% of us get B, at least a B, when it comes to OET writing. So that's significantly less than half. When you consider the people who score at least a C plus, then that means that percentage rises to something like 56%. Now, why are we talking about these two grades, B and C plus? You see in OET, a candidate gets a grade for each subtest between a 0 and 500, and this range 0 to 500, it's divided into letter marks: A, B, C plus, C, D, etc. Now, for people who take the OET, there are only two grades that are really relevant: B in writing or a C plus in writing. Australia and New Zealand both require at least a B in writing, which means that if you're headed to Australia or New Zealand, then only 43% of us get that grade. Not a very good number. However, if you're headed to the UK, the Nursing and Midwifery Council over there requires only a C plus when it comes to the writing subtest. How about when it comes to Ireland? Ireland, you see, is a lot more flexible because Ireland accepts a C plus in one C plus in either listening, reading, writing, or speaking, and the rest can be B. So theoretically, that means that you can get a C plus in Ireland and a B in everywhere else. So let me repeat that. When it comes to Filipinos, around 43% of us get a B in writing, and if we include C plus, that percentage increases to something like at least 56% of us get a C plus. So So you have to remember though that these numbers are not minimum guarantees; these are averages. So this means that at the end of the day, whether you're going to belong to that percentage that gets the grade that you need or not truly depends on your level of preparation and how much resources you invest in getting ready for the tests. However, when it comes to the IELTS, I believe the numbers are somewhat different, Sir Irvin.
Yes, totally different. Earlier, when we started the Facebook Live session, we have not asked the candidates or the attendees anything. So before I divulge the national average in writing, will you please type on the comment section what grade you need in IELTS writing? Okay, so IELTS is graded numerically from 1 to 9. 9 being the highest, that's why we call our review center 9.09er. 9.0, the perfect grade. The term 9er is given to someone who gets a 9 in at least one of the 4 subtests. The lowest possible grade in the IELTS, 1. So now let me take a look at what grade our candidates need. So, Sean Fernandez, 7. Lester Quijada, 7. Jerel Alanis, 5. Jen De Castro, 6.5. Lynn C, 7. Jonathan, 7. L.A. Cipriano, 7. Sif Mariz, 7. Rose Silvio, 6.5. Wow! 9.1 ang kailangan. Ni Francis de Garcia. Donna Torres, 6.5. 7, 7, 7. So, now you know what grade most of you need. It's just that the national average is nowhere near that. So now let me tell you the national average from 2017 to 2019. So 2020 statistics not yet available because they usually release this mid-year of the following year, which means to say we will only find out the national average grade in writing for 2020 come June or July of this year. So let's go back to 2017. National average in writing, 6.3. The following year, 2018, 6.2. The following year, 2019, released mid-year last year, 6.1. Class, is this good news or bad news? Ask yourself, if an average Filipino gets 6.1 in the actual examination, you need to ask yourself where you stand. Why? It is good news if you need lower than 6.1 because with below average writing skills, you can go to your preferred destination. But in the event that you need something like higher than 6.1, 6.5, Ireland accepts 6.5 in writing. UK accepts 6.5 in writing. Yes, imagine that the national average is 6.1 and here you are required to get 6.5. It's not enough that it's not enough that you are average. You have to be above average, better than a typical Filipino IELTS examinee to get the required band score in UK and Ireland. But what about Australia and New Zealand? 7. That's the grade they require in writing. Also for those migrating to Canada, it's a 7 in writing. So now, I need you to stay with us until the end of our writing masterclass for us to find out how you can possibly maximize your chances from an average of 6.1 to the required 6.5 or 7.0. IELTS and OET are not affordable examinations. IELTS 11,300 pesos if you take the test in the Philippines, and I heard it's a little more expensive elsewhere. In OET, Sir Philip, how much is the examination?
Exactly, it is 587 Australian dollars. Of course, if you're in the Philippines or anywhere you are and you're not going to be paying in that currency, the amount would depend on the exchange rate of the currency that you're using converted to Australian dollars. Of course, the amount that you find in Google when you make this calculation is not entirely accurate. I believe, Sir Irvin, you would know why?
That's because credit card companies charge higher as compared to Google rate. Recently, we had a reviewee who applied for OET exam. It's 22 to 23,000 pesos. The question is, are you willing to gamble your chances and take the examination without ample preparation? That is why you should know where we went wrong and what we're supposed to do right. So speaking of where we went wrong, FYI, in IELTS, there are 4 criteria. There's task response, coherence and cohesion, vocabulary and lexical resource, grammatical range, and accuracy. Sir Philip is going to mention the criteria in OET writing. But here I am telling you guys, of the 4 criteria, consistently there's one criterion where we get the highest grade in writing task 1 and writing task 2, and consistently there's a criterion where we get the lowest for task 1 and task 2. So, let me know your thoughts. We want audience participation. This is exactly the point why you're watching this live. You can just watch this after we upload this to our Facebook account. But no, you are here because you want to participate. May I ask you now, please guess, of the 4 IELTS criteria in writing, which of the 4 criteria do you think we Filipinos get the highest grade? Is it task response or how well we answer the question? Is it coherence and cohesion or the organization of your output? Number 3, vocabulary. Number 4, grammar. Let me take a look at your guesses. Pick one of the 4. In which criterion are we Filipinos doing, in which criterion are we best in or we're performing well? Let me take a look. So, Louis thought it's coherence and cohesion. Christina thinks it's grammar. Honey thinks it's grammar. G. Din Melgar, grammar. Cheng MV, vocabulary. And I have to stop right there because someone got it right. Would you believe that it's actually in vocabulary where we get the highest across all 4 criteria? Which means to say, if you think you are an average Filipino, then if I may suggest, don't focus anymore on vocabulary. Why? Because that is our strength as a nation. Knowing that we're performing well in vocabulary, what about the criterion where we get the lowest national average? Let's remove vocabulary from your options, guys. We only have 3 options remaining. So, is it in task response? Once again, how well you answer the question. Number 2, coherence and cohesion, organization and flow of your essay. Number 3, grammar. Please tell me, in which criterion are we getting the lowest average? May I see Okay, so some people responded task response, task response, task response, task response, task response. I think they're attending our classes.
They should be.
No,
They should
because
be.
they got it right.
I know.
FYI, it's the first two criteria where Filipinos get lower grades. So, this is the most important lesson I have learned from Dr. Victoria Clark. She said that, Irvin, number one, did you know that Filipinos are doing better in English? That means vocabulary and grammar as compared to task response and coherence and cohesion, which means to say, if you have limited time to prepare for your IELTS, we want you to focus on improving your performance in task response plus coherence and cohesion, because this is where we get lower grades. If you have limited time, I am not saying that vocabulary and grammar are not important. But if we are already doing well in these two criteria, we focus on our weakness as a nation. It's just that if you have plenty of time, don't just focus on our weaknesses, namely task response and coherence and cohesion. We focus on all of them. Exactly why we're offering unlimited review program. Now, that's the case in IELTS. That's the first lesson I've learned from Dr. Victoria Clark. What about lesson number 2? She said during the conference when I met her in 2017, Filipinos do better in writing task 2 as compared to writing task 1. Would you believe that? We do better in essay writing as compared to statistical writing. And I think that's true. Why? In school, how many times have we submitted essays? Quite a lot of times, right? But what about statistical writing? When was the last time you dealt with a line graph, a bar graph, a pie chart, a table? This is my usual joke in class. How many of you working as an OR nurse respond to your doctor when the doctor says, "Nurse, forceps please"? You're not going to pass the forceps to your doctor and you're going to say, "Hello, doctor. The line graph shows the unemployment rate in UK in 1900. Overall, there was an increase." Point being, it's not every day that our dear nurses and health workers deal with a line graph, bar graph, pie chart table. And this is exactly the reason why we're going to allot a totally separate masterclass for writing task 1, because this is where we fail as a nation. You heard it straight from the horse's mouth. It's not in writing task 2 where we fail, it's writing task 1. So once again, if you have limited time to prepare for this examination, focus more on writing task 1, because this is the subtest that pulls us down as a nation. I'm just not sure if some of them have heard of this before. I'm not sure if the international speakers on YouTube are able to share that. The advantage of having Filipino instructors is when we speak to the big bosses of IELTS, obviously, they divulge information to us that is applicable to the Philippine context. So we're not talking about the performance of other nationalities here, because 99% of our clients are Filipinos. Yes, we have enrollees who are Indonesians, Malaysians, Chinese, Indians. Recently, we have enrollees, the locals, the citizens of Colombia, Egypt, Iran, Jordan, Syria. It's just that Filipinos are still the primary market of 9.09er. So we are focusing on our performance as a race, as a nation. Now, Dr. Victoria Clark also told me, so if this is the case, you have to focus on task response plus coherence and cohesion. At the same time, focus on writing task 1, because these are the reasons why majority of the Filipinos don't get the required band score in writing. You heard that right from 9.09er. We are not a fly-by-night review center. We were not established yesterday. Almost half of our life we have dedicated to this examination. So that spells the difference between a novice IELTS instructor and someone who has been in the business for the longest time. Now, let us move on to OET criteria. Sir Philip, kindly discuss the OET criteria for the benefit of our audience and how are they different from IELTS?
Certainly. Happy to discuss. When it comes to the OET, there are 5 criteria in contrast to the IELTS 4. These are purpose, contents, conciseness and clarity, organization and layout, genre and style, and language. Oh, so that's 6. So the purpose is like 3 points. On the other hand, the others are 7 points each. These criteria are quite numerous because it's a holistic assessment that OET shall be conducting when it comes to your examiners who are based in Melbourne to assess your writing. Now, very briefly, what are they about? Purpose is given a special place when it comes to healthcare writing, because as if you're a healthcare worker, the first thing that you need to find out when you pick up a document, when you pick up a piece of paper, is to find out what is this piece of paper supposed to do, what is the function of this piece of paper. And that's why there has to be a very clear purpose statement in your handover document. This is given emphasis because in the real world, that's the way it goes. In addition to that, information selection, determining which pieces of data are important in the case notes that you're going to be given. It's like a chart. It's comprised 14 points, quite a big chunk of your grade, because content and conciseness and clarity talk about exactly that. What is content? Content is about giving information that the person you're writing to needs in order to perform the tasks that you're asking him to perform. For example, if you're asking this person to ensure that the patient complies with his dietary regimen, then I guess it makes sense for you to tell him what the patient's diet is, right? If you don't give him this information that he needs to do his job, you get minus points in content. If you give him this information that he needs for this job, then you get plus points in content. On the other hand, conciseness and clarity talks about not giving information that the person doesn't need to perform the task. So going back to the example, if you're asking the healthcare professional to ensure that the patient complies with his dietary regimen, then maybe it's not relevant to inform him that he likes to do yoga during the weekends. The rationale behind that is if your letter is cluttered with too much information that is not needed to perform the task, then it becomes harder for the reader to find out what information is actually important. So you see, therefore, that content and conciseness and clarity are two parts of essentially the same skill: information selection, determining which parts are important and which parts are not important. Now, we spent quite a lot of time discussing this in class, but as a rough overview, one of the most frequent difficulties when it comes to content is that there is a tendency consistently across different batches of students. There's this tendency amongst healthcare professionals to say everything to mention everything. When it comes to conciseness and clarity, they don't want to miss out on anything. Sir, isn't this important? Sir, isn't this something that the healthcare professional needs to know? We understand, of course, that in the real world, we essentially say everything. Right? We endorse the entire chart when we endorse a patient. However, in the context of the OET, in this letter, you don't have to mention everything, but rather it's a focused correspondence that is limited to what you're trying to accomplish. At the same time, when it comes to content, there is difficulty for candidates to paraphrase the language that is present in the case notes. Paraphrasing is using these different words to communicate the same thing. And of course, as much as possible, you're supposed to be using your own language, your own phrasings, rather than just copy-pasting what is in the paper. Given, understandably, of course, by the time that you get to writing, you're tired already, you're exhausted, and maybe you're not at your best. And there is a temptation, there is a tendency for you to go down the path of least resistance, of merely copying the words in the case notes. And unfortunately, though it's easy, this is not the path forward. So you're gonna have to come up with your own way of saying the same thing. So that's purpose, content, conciseness, and clarity. Organization and layout is very similar to coherence and cohesion when it comes to the IELTS exam, because it is all about structuring your thoughts, structuring your language in a way that makes it easier for the reader to understand what you're saying. So this is all about paragraphing, determining which ideas belong together. Should the diabetes be discussed together with the hypertension, or should they be discussed separately? How about the diet? Should that be incorporated with the ulcer, or is that a standalone and separate issue? So making decisions about which information to put together actually communicates quite a lot of content to your reader, because the things that you put together, you're implying that they are interrelated and they should be understood in the same thought. In addition to that, prioritizing, determining which pieces of information should be read first is also very important. If you put the bleeding first, then before the depression, then you're telling the reader that, hey, maybe the bleeding should take priority over depression. If you do it the other way around, then that's a totally different story. So very briefly, you can see that it matters quite a lot how you put your ideas together. And that's why it's 7 points. That's what organization and layout is all about. On the other hand, genre and style talks about the format of your letter. Now, take note that it's a letter form. It's not an essay. It's not a report like in IELTS. It's not a poem. It's supposed to look like a letter. And though there are lots of things that can be said about this part, one of the most common errors is that people worry, like, sir, what do I put first? Is it the date? Is it the year? What format should I use? What would be reassuring to know at this part is that OET doesn't really care in what order you put your salutation or your date. How many spaces should you have in between paragraphs? Whatever. Because understandably, the OET is an international test. And there are various ways that people write letters all over the planet. So as long as the information that's needed is there, as long as it looks like a letter, then you get full credit for that. Lastly, the last criterion is language. Language is similar to IELTS grammatical range and accuracy, as well as lexical resource. It assesses how good you are in English. However, the main difference between the way English is assessed in the IELTS versus the OET is that whereas English is, of course, the core component for both tests, but when it comes to healthcare, some errors matter less than others. The ratio is 1:5. One error that changes meaning is equivalent to 5 errors that do not change meaning. A quick example. If I say, Philip have a fever, that sounds wrong, right? Philip have a fever. But, so that's an error. But you still understand what I'm trying to say. Wouldn't you agree? Right? So that's an example of an error that doesn't change meaning. However, if I say, his symptoms has worsened. His symptoms has worsened. That's wrong, because symptoms is plural, has is singular. So which word is wrong? Symptoms or has? You're not sure, right? Because it could be has that's wrong. It's supposed to be his symptoms have worsened, which means that there's more than one symptom. But also, it also works the other way around. It's possible that it's symptoms that's wrong. His symptom has worsened, which means that there's only one symptom that's getting worse. So which is it? If I say, therefore, his symptoms has worsened, how many symptoms are we talking about? You don't know, no? Is it one or is it many? Is it singular or is it plural? That would be one example of where the error in language results in a breakdown in communication, because the emphasis in the OET is communication, getting the message across. Maybe you forgot a comma, maybe you forgot a semicolon. As long as the person understands what needs to be understood, then that's an error and you do get a minus for that, but not as big of an error as if the meaning becomes compromised because of your lack of control of the language. So there we go. Those are our 6 criteria: purpose, content, conciseness and clarity, organization and layout, genre and style, and language. purpose is 3 points and everything else is 7 points, for a grand total of 38 points when it comes to the OET subtest. You can see, therefore, that it's quite comprehensive, and there are a lot of things that you need to work on. When it comes to Niner, we're going to be working on all of these things, and I think you would agree with me that you're going to need some support in making that happen. This has been the experience of quite a lot of our students, and they have been grateful that their own efforts have borne so much fruit when they work with us. I believe this is also the experience of people who take who also prepare for the IELTS, wouldn't you say, Sir Irvin?
Okay, thank you for that, Sir Philip. I just have a question. In OET, even if they're taking the examination, say for instance in the Philippines or in the Middle East or wherever they are, there is just one venue where all OET writing examiners are based. Did I get it right?
In Melbourne, Australia.
Okay. In IELTS, ladies and gentlemen, the case is different. Why? Every IELTS candidate is assigned to 3 examiners. Why 3 examiners? 1, your speaking examiner. Number 2, your writing task 1 examiner. Number 3, your writing task 2 examiner. What does this mean? The person who is conducting the speaking test won't check your writing tasks. One thing is for sure, your examiner, the one who checks your essay, won't interview you in the speaking subtest. So that's why you are assigned to 3 examiners. I also learned about this from the big bosses of the 2 testing centers in the IELTS, IDP, and the British Council, that the writing tasks are not checked in the country where you are taking the test. So where are the essays checked? If you are taking the examination in IDP, then the essays are forwarded to Australia for checking. If you are taking the examination in British Council, then the writing tasks are forwarded to UK. Which means to say our review program is applicable worldwide, regardless of where you are, regardless of your location. And that is because at the end of the day, there's just a specific group of examiners based in UK if it's British Council, based in Australia if it's IDP. So the examiners are over there. They're going to check your output. Now, to a certain extent, your writing task 1 examiner wouldn't know the final grade in writing that will come out in your result. Your writing task 2 examiner wouldn't know what grade will come out in your result. So if it's not the examiner that determines that, who determines the grade that will come out in your IELTS result? It's the computer. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard me right. It's the computer. So what is it that the computer does? So here are the 4 grades given by your examiner in writing task 1. So there's task achievement, coherence, cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range, and accuracy. Then the 4 grades, the grades given in the 4 criteria for writing task 2, task response, coherence, cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range, and accuracy. What is it that the computer does? The computer automatically multiplies your grades in each of the 4 criteria in task 2 by 2. Why? Remember task 1, 33% of your grade. Task 2, 66% of your grade. So the grand total 4 in writing task 1, 4 in writing task 2, plus another 4 in writing task 2, 12. Divided by, okay, you get the average. It's the computer now that will decide or that will determine what grade you're going to see in your IELTS result. So FYI, if you're graded in each of the 4 criteria, numerically from 1 to 9, no fractions, no decimals. Whole number values. You're going to get 6 in grammar, 7 in vocabulary, but there will never come a time that someone is given 6.5 in grammar or 7 and 3/4 in vocabulary. It will never happen. But where do we see decimals? Only in the final grade that you will see for speaking and writing. So there you go. 9, perfect grade, followed by 8.5, 8, 7.5, 7, and so on. So we have just talked about how many examiners you have in IELTS? 3. Writing task 1 examiner, writing task 2 examiner, not based in the country where you are taking the test, plus the 3rd examiner, speaking, the one that conducts the interview. Now, let's talk about the difference between paper-based and computer-delivered writing. In OET, Sir Philip, will you please enlighten the people for tonight? Because I understand that OET is primarily a paper-based exam. But what about OET at home? I read certain articles saying that it's possible to take OET at home. Or can OET be actually taken on a computer? So kindly inform our audience, please, how this works. Then later, I'll compare pen and paper writing versus computer-delivered writing.
Certainly, Sir Irvin. Now, before I discuss the different kinds of OET exams that you can take, just to build on what Sir Irvin said earlier, whereas in the IELTS exam there are 3 examiners who you would be assigned to, one for speaking, one for writing task 1, and one for writing task 2. When it comes to the OET, there are going to be 4 examiners that you're going to be assigned to. 2 to assess your letter in writing, and 2 as well who will assess your role play in speaking. These 2 examiners, why are they 2? These 2 examiners are there in order to ensure that the grade that you get would not be unnecessarily colored or influenced by their bias. So, for example, when it comes to writing, so you write a letter, right? So one examiner would assess it and give you a grade out of 38. Another examiner gives you a grade out of 38 as well for the same piece of paper. These 2 people will not be talking to each other. They would arrive at the grade independently. So what is being avoided here is that one person with his biases and prejudices as a human being, of course, because we all are coming from different places and do have and are forced to make subjective judgments. His biases would be sort of like, well, not cancelled out, but mediated and sort of like minimized by another person. So that's something that is supposed to be reassuring, and it reassures me because it helps me to think, and it comforts me that the grade that I would be receiving would be based not on someone's prejudices or biases, but rather on my own performance. So that's great. It allows you to focus on improving your proficiency and your competence rather than praying to get like a lenient examiner or praying that you do not get a fierce or strict examiner. So going back, as Sir Irvin mentioned, there are 3 ways that you can take the OET. 1, 2, 3. The primary way is a paper-based test. This means that you go to a center and then you use paper in order to write your letter. On the other hand, there's the computer-based test. There are some locations in the planet where this is offered. In the Philippines, not so much, but in other countries, maybe a little bit more so. And finally, third, there's OET at home. This is where, because you can take the OET from the comfort of your bedroom. Their preparation for offering this was accelerated because of the pandemic, and this is something that is a valid option in some parts of the world. Now, what is OET at home? OET at home, you have a computer, and you have to fulfill certain security protocols in order for them to allow you to prove your English proficiency through this method. Of course, this is very complicated. They have so many rules regarding what you wear, what you have to check. There's going to be a proctor. There's going to be a live human being who is going to watch you the entire time. He will be performing checks. They will be asking you to go to the camera, look behind your ear, look underneath your sleeve, look underneath your pants, things like that. Remove your glasses, fold it to the camera to ensure that you have no cameras in your glasses. So it's a whole hullabaloo of like procedures because they don't trust you. Of course not, because they're not physically there. If you have to go to the bathroom during a break and then you go back, you have to go through the entire security protocol again. If your signal vanishes at any point during the 3-hour marathon that OET lasts for, you have to go through the entire security protocol again, which could be understandably distracting when you're trying to focus on performing well in your exam. They are going to require a camera. They're going to ask you to move it around the room to ensure that you have no notes that are pasted over there. Look underneath your desk to make sure that you have no notes over there, etc. if any person enters the room during the test, it's cancelled. So if you're taking the exam at home, make sure that either everyone is outside the house, or you tell them not to enter the room during the time that the OET at home is happening, or else literally you have to take the entire test again. There are so many procedures. Of course, in a country where the signal is pretty strong, then feel free. Now you can that is a reasonable option. However, if you're based in the Philippines, let me ask you, do you think that our internet here in the Republic of the Philippines is strong? What do you think? Do you think that you have strong connection for 3 straight hours? Because if not, and quite a lot, it's not, right? It's not. Because of this reason, OET at home is definitely not something that we recommend. Rather, why don't you go take the OET in the testing center? There are 3 in the country. There's ACE Testing Hub, there's Kaplan, and there's UTP based in Davao City. These locations in the Philippines can be seen in the OET website. Do check them out, as well as the dates that they conduct the exam. For other locations, the computer-based test is also offered, where instead of writing your letter down by hand, you can just type it. But I understand that this is an option that is not actually available in the Philippines as of now, or if so, in limited locations. So therefore, we focus our review on preparing people for the paper-based tests. Now, regarding this, the main concern here is that some people have horrible handwriting. You know what I mean? They write it, and because they're tired and because they're running out of time, as long as I write something, I guess that's okay. Well, the thing about that is that you understand what you write, but you're not the one who's gonna give yourself your grade. It's the 2 people in Melbourne who are gonna have to figure out what it is that you wrote. So though OET letter writing is not a penmanship test, it is not a handwriting test, it's not a neatness exam, it's an English exam. It is still in your best interest to make sure that the 2 people, your 2 examiners reading your work, don't get forced to give you a lower grade simply because they cannot decipher what you write in your letter. So that's something that you're gonna be that can best be addressed by making sure that you have enough time in order to write your letter well. Because if you're not hurrying, then this means that you're less stressed and you have more time to be calm and to focus on forming your letters properly. Something to consider, and something that you get lots of practice on during your review at 9.09er, where through our coaches, they're going to be giving you feedback, not only with the content of your letters, but also with how readable they are. Because if your coaches at Niner cannot read your letters, then maybe you can safely say that your examiners may have a difficult time too. So to review, paper-based tests, computer-based tests, and OET at home. What do we recommend? Why don't you take the paper-based tests? Because that is the one that we're more familiar with, more readily available, and is not dependent, and you are not at the mercy of our poor internet signal. When it comes to the IELTS, though, I don't think there are 3 options, Servant, wouldn't you say?
So for the IELTS, we only have 2 options, guys. Paper-based and computer delivered. Let's begin with paper-based writing. In the actual examination, you're provided with 2 sheets of paper. One for task 1, back-to-back. Another one for task 2, back-to-back. FYI, it is best that you limit your output to the 2 sheets of paper. What if you have consumed all the lines for both sheets of paper and you're not yet finished with your output? You raise your hand and call the attention of the test supervisor. Excuse me, test supervisor, will you please give me 9 more sheets of paper because I want at least 9 in writing. The moment you ask for extra sheets of paper, then we recommend that you prepare 11,300 pesos for your next examination. Why? IELTS examiners are easily annoyed by super long or unnecessarily long outputs. Why? An important lesson that I've learned when I was rubbing elbows with examiners. They are paid by the number of essays. They are not paid by the number of words, which means to say, their objective while they work is to check as many essays as they can in order for them to be paid more. Imagine if one examiner is spending so much time checking your output. That examiner will easily be annoyed because this examiner is allotting more time as compared to the other outputs. That's why, what did I say? Task 1, back to back. Task 2, back to back. Now, what about the number of words? A lot of people are asking, so sir, how do I know if I reached 150 words in task 1 or 250 words in task 2? Should I count? No. For those of you who have an idea how a writing answer sheet looks like, let me give you some tips on how to count the words without actually counting the words. Oh, 9.09ers tip. For you guys to know if you reached 150 words already by just looking at your paper for 1 second. I'll give you an idea. Writing task 1 answer sheet. Front page, there are approximately 15 lines. Yes, I encourage you to check writing task 1 answer sheet and count there are 15 lines on the first page. The assumption of the IELTS examiners, one line has approximately 10 words. That is why. What is your goal in the actual exam? To consume all the lines on the first page. And if you're able to do that, class, it means to say you have reached the minimum number of words already. Without counting all the words, without counting all the lines, your objective is just to consume all 15 lines on the first page. Now, the question is it possible for you not to write a single word on the second page of task 1? The answer is yes. Because possibly you've already reached 150 words by just writing or just making sure that all the lines on the first page are filled. It's just that IELTS examiners in writing task 1 don't want you to write very long outputs. So what is the recommendation? If you look at the back of your page 1, just try your best to write, there are 20 lines on the second page. Try not to reach the 10th line. That's the ideal length for writing task 1. But what about writing task 2? Writing task 1 answer sheet, writing task 2 answer sheet are identical. The only difference, it says writing task 1, the other one writing task 2. So if you've consumed all the 15 lines on the first page of writing task 2, that means to say you've only written 150 words. Now, do the math. If you look at the second page of your task 1, what is your goal? You've consumed 15 lines on the first page, but the minimum is 250 words. This time around, on the second page, I need you to write beyond the 10th line. How would you know it's the 10th line? You fold your answer sheet into two, somewhere along the way, in between, in the middle, that is your cue that you have to write beyond the 10th line. Now, this is 9.09ers technique, word count technique without counting the words. So, writing task 1, just make sure you're able to write on all of the lines on the first page, whereas for writing task 2, all the lines on the first page and half of the lines on the second page. But what about computer-delivered IELTS? This is not something that you have to think about. Why? All you have to do is to direct your attention to the lower right-hand side portion of the screen, because there you will see word count. It is automatically updated every time you type a word. So, I am a very responsive person, except for the last few days when I was recovering from my surgery, because until now, I'm still back reading from the messages sent to my personal Facebook and Niners Facebook account. Here are a lot of questions that Filipinos are thinking of, and mind you, Filipinos are very creative and imaginative. Some people are asking, sir, am I right in my assumption that if I take computer-delivered IELTS, sir, number 1, they are going to check my spelling, and number 2, they are going to suggest synonyms, sir, so that I'll take the computer-delivered IELTS instead. Now, this is my point. This is an English examination, right? So why is it that they are going to check your spelling or suggest synonyms if in the first place they are there to assess your English proficiency? You're not going to use Microsoft Word in the writing subtest. It's a simple notepad, which means to say, whether it's pen and paper IELTS or computer-delivered IELTS, no one will suggest synonyms while you write. No one is going to check your spelling while you write. Now, of all the messages I've received ever since I started teaching IELTS, the one message I will never forget, here you go. The student asked me, "Sir, if I take computer-delivered IELTS and in the middle of the writing subtest, sir, nag-brown out, sir. So what will happen to the essay that I have written?" And I responded to the reviewee by saying, "Naisip mo talaga yan? Na mababrown out sa kalagitnaan ng writing subtest?" And the student said, "Sir, I think that is a legitimate concern." Why? Because I don't want to go back to zero, to start from scratch. So what is the promise of British Council and IDP? The moment there is power interruption, okay, the last word will automatically be saved to the system, such that when power comes back, you don't have to start from scratch. You'll just have to continue writing your essay from the last word that you've typed just before the power interruption. So now you're going to ask me, "So sir, which one would you recommend? Is it pen and paper IELTS or computer delivered IELTS?" You ask yourself, is your penmanship readable enough? Is it legible enough? Then go ahead with paper-based IELTS. But if you know for a fact that you're having difficulty with, if you know other people are having a difficulty in reading your output, that's when we recommend computer-delivered IELTS or computer-delivered writing. That's because penmanship is not an issue anymore. So now, Sir Philip has taken OET and IELTS. I have taken the IELTS only. Well, that's because I'm not a healthcare professional. Sir Philip earlier gave you an idea how to perform well in each of the 6 criteria in OET writing. But now, both of us are going to share our thoughts. Let's focus on the 4 criteria for IELTS writing. We begin with task response. Guys, I hope you have your pen and paper with you so that you can take note of important questions, important tips. If only we can use a PowerPoint for this Facebook Live session, but apparently we can't. And what is it that you've noticed? We just open our mouth. Okay, my turn, his turn. Okay, we just open our mouth. But in class, obviously, we use a PowerPoint presentation and so on. Now, I hope you have your pen and paper with you. Task response. In the actual examination, ask yourself the following questions. Number 1. Did you fully and appropriately answer the question? Why? The observation of IELTS examiners worldwide, plenty of IELTS candidates can write a lot. It's just that there are responses which are off topic. Sometimes, the question is asking for the causes and effects, but there are know-it-all candidates who write causes, effects, plus solutions. You always go back to the question. If the question is not asking for solutions, do not provide what is not asked. Always go back to the question. You have to remember what the question is asking you to do. Or, certain people misunderstand words in the question. And I'll give you a perfect example. Say, for instance, writing task 2, actual question. The best way, listen to that, the best way to solve the world's environmental problem is to increase the cost of fuel. Do you agree or disagree? Now, in your introduction, you wrote something like, "I agree that one way of solving the environmental problem is to increase the cost of fuel." Ladies and gentlemen, question, the best way. Your introduction, one way. Sir Philip, the best way and one way, are they the same?
They are not. Of course, it is possible that this one way that you mentioned is indeed the best way, but you didn't mention that in the intro, did you? So this seems to be definitely off topic.
That's why you need someone to check your output.
Yes.
You might be confident of your English, but remember, it's not English where Filipinos fail. It's how well we respond to the question. You need someone who has been in the industry for the longest time to assess your output. So that's question number 1. How well you responded to the question. Another question. Were you able to finish the writing task? And by definition of the word finish, there has to be proper closure. If your output does not have closure, then it means to say your writing task is incomplete. Now, here's question number 3. Were you able to reach the minimum number of words? In OET, please correct me if I'm wrong, Sir Philip, 180 to 200 words, right?
Around 180 to 200 words.
Which means to say it could be less than 180, it could be more than 200.
A little more than 180.
Okay.
A little more than 200.
Okay. But in IELTS, it does not work that way. You have to make sure that you reach minimum of 150 in task 1, minimum of 250 in writing task 2. Someone asked me, Sir, what if I completed the writing task? I have an intro, I have a body, I have a conclusion. It's just that I only have 230 words. Sir, do you think I'm going to get a good grade for the first criterion? What can you say, Sir Philip?
I don't think so. Definitely not.
The only time we're going to say your output is complete is when you have closure, okay? Plus number 2, you have reached the minimum number of words. Which means to say, make sure you have a conclusion. There's a proper closure and you exceeded the minimum word requirement. It's just that there are people who write relatively long essays and they have responsive answers, but they fail to provide examples. As I was told, the examples are always an essential part of the essay. If your output does not contain any example, then what are the chances that you're going to get a 7 for task response? So when we speak of examples, it could be a global example, it could be a local example, or a personal example. But if I may share an important lesson I've learned from one of the examiners when I attended the writing workshop. Generally, they prefer something global over local, over personal experience. And what's the explanation? Everyone can think of a personal experience, but not everyone can think of a local example. More so, fewer candidates think of a global example. So let's consider something like this, okay? What if the topic has something to do with education? Comparing private schools and public schools. So, if I may ask the attendees, because we want them to be actively participating for tonight, when you hear public schools and private schools, will you please give us examples of public schools and private schools that you know? May I see? Let's wait for the responses of our attendees. Kindly tell me, which public schools and private schools do you have in mind as examples? I'm sure the others are thinking, the others are typing, or they might have typed the answer. It's just that it is not shown here. Okay. Jer Adriano, Bulacan State University. Jerel Alanis, UP, Ateneo. Okay? What did you notice? The examples given by our attendees are local examples. Honestly, we have nothing against local examples. It's just that, once again, I've heard this from the IELTS examiners I have dealt with. They automatically know if the candidate is from the Philippines, even if they're checking the papers in Australia and UK. Why? Because Filipinos always write local examples. It's a giveaway. Filipinos write University of the Philippines, Ateneo de Manila University, University of Santo Tomas, De La Salle University. Why don't you think of something global? Say, for instance, the National University of Singapore. Say, for instance, Nanyang Technological University. If you are able to do that, you give the examiner an idea you are well informed, that you are a wide reader. And remember, it is content that spells the difference between an average output and a well-written output. If you could possibly display your intelligence in writing and speaking, then please do that to get a higher band score. Remember, English is not the only basis that will determine if you're going to make it in the examination or not, but it's also the quality, the value of your answers and responses. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have a recap. For the first criterion to do well, make sure you answer the question. Don't provide something that is not asked. You have to understand the words in the question, because it's only when you are responsive that you'll get a higher than average grade in the first criterion. Don't forget to write examples, and these examples, if you may, must be global over local over personal examples. And even if you have a conclusion but you're not able to reach the minimum number of words, that's still considered incomplete. So I challenge you to write the conclusion plus exceed the minimum word requirement. That's the first criterion, task response. What is the national average grade of Filipinos for the first criterion? According to the statistics that I have right here, it's 6.0. That's our national average for the first criterion. Okay, now let's move on to criterion number 2, coherence and cohesion. Earlier, Sir Philip gave you an idea that it has something to do with organization, the flow of your output. In IELTS and OET, you cannot write in bullet points. You have to write in complete sentences and organized paragraphs. In OET, Sir Philip, do we have a recommended number of, let's say, sentences per paragraph or number of paragraphs in the entire letter?
Definitely not. The emphasis is that you use as many as you need. It is your English that must adjust for your message. It is not the message that adjusts for the English. After all, if the diabetes has nothing to do with the hypertension, you need to discuss them in separate paragraphs. But if they are related, it may be better for you to discuss them in one. So you have to make these decisions and how to organize your ideas beforehand, before you start writing. And that's why the first part of your writing subtest in the OET is of critical importance, because it would color and determine the decisions that you would be making down the line. So how many paragraphs? It depends on what you need to communicate.
Let's move on to the IELTS. I've met 3 examiners. They are very friendly and they are very smart. When I attended their writing workshops, there's IELTS examiner, my idol. I've mentioned her last week and I'm going to mention her once again because she's my mentor, Professor Rosela Bambi Torrecampo of UP Diliman. And we also have 2 foreigner examiners, Miss Cindy La Rosa and Mr. Malcolm Douglas Gamut. What is it that I've learned from them? They are candidates in the Philippines or even outside of the country, but Filipinos in general, who write in paragraphs. But the problems are, number 1, their paragraphs are just too long. Imagine some candidates are writing 7 sentences in 1 paragraph, and that's not the way to do it. Also, there are candidates who are told the longer the essay, the higher the grade, and that is not true. So some people write 7 paragraphs or 8 paragraphs, and what's going to happen? The examiner might vomit while checking your output because of essays that are unnecessarily long. So what's the lesson that I've learned from these helpful, smart teachers when I attended their writing workshops? Well, it's not always the case. It's not a requirement, but it's a recommendation if you can limit your paragraph to around 4 or 5 sentences. And the grand total for the number of paragraphs, around 4 or 5 paragraphs. Why? This is the case in writing task 2. If you do the math, 4 to 5 sentences per paragraph, 4 to 5 paragraphs in the entire output, most likely that's 250 to 350 words, the ideal number of words. But let me tell you, it's not just about paragraphing. It's not just about the number of sentences, but your ability to use connective words correctly. In IELTS writing, you are required to use words that ensure a smooth flow from one paragraph to another. So make sure that when you present a new idea, you use words like furthermore, in addition, moreover. If you present a counter argument, you're expected to use words like however, on the other hand, in contrast, on the contrary. But I heard Sir Philip, when he was discussing this in OET, there are certain words that I've mentioned right now that are not acceptable in OET writing. So, why is this the case, Sir Philip? And will you please tell them which words are not appropriate in OET writing but are required in IELTS writing?
In order to explain this, one must remember the context in which your letter in OET is going to be written. You, a healthcare professional, usually a nurse, is writing to another member of the healthcare team regarding a patient. So this means that your communication is not meant to be beautiful, it's not meant to be impressive, but rather it's meant to be useful. It's meant to fulfill a certain function. So this means that this letter is being done in the context of work. You're writing to a colleague. So you're not in school. You are not in university. So therefore, you should be avoiding academic language. Things that may be more suitable in the academe, such as furthermore, consequently, as a consequence, thus, hence, things like this. You know, like if you don't use it in normal conversation, maybe that's not appropriate here as well. So what would be more appropriate would be something simpler. Because of this, in addition, also, things like that. So the simpler the connective devices, the transitional devices in OET, the better, because you're not trying to impress a professor in a university class. And that is one of the major differences for using language in the OET compared to the IELTS. So if you're one of the people who have tried and unfortunately failed the IELTS, when you transition to and if you choose to transition preparing for the OET, it's using these words, these academic words, may be a habit that you would have to change and to focus and to keep in mind the context in which you're writing this letter. You're not in school, but rather you're at work. You're in duty and you're trying to communicate a simple, functional message to another member of the team. That is, I believe, clear, Sir Irvin, wouldn't you say?
Very clear indeed. Crystal clear. Pristine. Like water. So, let's go back to IELTS. As I've mentioned earlier, there are words that you can use to present the next idea, next argument, or reason. You can also present counter arguments. And IELTS examiners have noticed this, by the way. There are people in IELTS who write firstly, secondly, thirdly. These words are not wrong in English. It's just that, according to the examiners, when I attended their workshops, it is best that you drop the LYs. It's enough to write first, second, third. That's the English of today. So the LYs, they're a thing of the past. They're passé. So this is why it's important that your lecturers are not just English teachers. It's important that your lecturers are well-trained. Now, speaking of trained, Sir Philip right here attended Cam TESOL just this February. It was an international conference and he was the lone representative of the Philippines 9.09 Review Center in particular, and he shared with us what he learned during that conference. If you can only imagine how many conferences we've attended in the last 14 or 15 years of teaching, that's because whenever we attend, we always learn something new. And how do we pay it forward? By sharing it to our students in class and saying it out loud in free masterclass sessions like this. This is Facebook Live. You're not paying to hear us, but we are here to share this good news. If anyone here is taking the examination tomorrow or this Saturday and it's not practical anymore for you to get our package, at least you'll remember us on the day of your examination, and the moment you get hold of your result, thank you 9.09er. Even if I did not avail your review package, I learned something from your free session. What about writing examples? You're right, to illustrate, such as, for instance, for example, but please don't write like, for example, because that is redundant. Writing like is the same as for example. What about the conclusion? Yes, you're allowed to write something like in summary or to sum up. It's just that IELTS examiners noticed that quite a lot of Filipinos write, therefore I conclude. It's not wrong But if it's overused, especially by a certain group of people, they would know if the candidate is from the Philippines. And this is what I learned from IELTS examiners checking the essays. When you write, therefore, I conclude, you sound like a grade 6 pupil in a science lab experiment. I repeat, therefore, I conclude is not wrong, but overused. So try to think of something different in order to begin your conclusion. Now, what about the national average for coherence and cohesion? It's 6.2. But why is it low? Not 6.5, not 7. IELTS examiners noticed that majority of the Filipino candidates, and when I say majority, that's more than 50%, we use exactly the same connective words in writing task 1 and writing task 2, but that must not be the case. Remember, in writing task 2, you are encouraged to use furthermore, moreover, but these words are not welcome in IELTS writing task 1. Instead, what are you supposed to use? Consequently, subsequently, you can use that especially if you're writing for a process where there is a flow chart, a diagram, or an illustration. Now, there are Filipinos in writing task 1 who write on the other hand, and that is a mortal sin. Once again, straight from the horse's mouth, meaning to say, straight from a credible source. And yes, I am confident, as brave as the lion, because I know that I'm saying it right. I can look at you straight in the eye. Class, avoid on the other hand in writing task 1. And what is the explanation? Usually in writing task 2, you write on the other hand because you're presenting the other side of the story. But in writing task 1, there is no other side of the story, right? A lot of candidates encounter a pie chart and a bar graph. So when they're done with the pie chart, this is what they write in the next paragraph. On the other hand, the bar graph, wrong. Instead of writing that, how are you supposed to introduce the bar graph? As for the bar graph, comma, it shows that's the proper language in writing task 1. So this is what 9.09er discusses in class. Hey, we're not going to tell you, okay class, what is a linking verb? Give us an example of linking verbs. You're not paying 4,000 for you to be taught the difference between is and are. We assume you already know that. So what are you paying us to do? To discuss something that you have not heard on YouTube. You have not heard from other coaches. That makes us a cut above the rest. So there are appropriate connective words in task 1 which are not appropriate in writing task 2 and vice versa. Now let's move on to lexical resource. Number 1 error, using big words to impress the examiner. IELTS, what is the context of IELTS? Your English is being assessed in the university setting or academic setting. Because that's the purpose of this examination. It's not primarily for health workers, but it's for the general public, the population. Now, if you use so many big words in one sentence, it doesn't sound natural. Class, we're not saying that big words are wrong, but we're saying if they are not used appropriately, it might be taken against you. So, if I may share something, this one is from a very good friend of 9.09er, one of the examiners. And he said, what are the requirements to become an examiner? Number 1, you need to have CELTA. That's an international certification issued by Cambridge. And yes, Sir Philip right here, woohoo, has CELTA. Only one of the few people in the Philippines with CELTA. Number 2, they need to get a perfect grade in the examination, like a 9 in speaking and 9 in writing. Why? That's because when they are conferred the title IELTS examiner, apparently they are considered as connoisseurs of English. But what we've learned from this examiner, even if they're IELTS examiners, it's totally understood that they do not understand all the words in the English dictionary. There are so many words in the English dictionary, and examiners are humans. Now imagine in the actual examination, what if you, an average examinee, a commoner, using a big word the examiner failed to understand. Now what is the examiner going to think? How come this person is using a word I, a god of English, an IELTS examiner, cannot understand? Do you really think it will be you will be given credit for that? Sometimes it will be taken against you just because you hurt the pride or the ego of the examiner. So one lesson I've learned from them, do not do anything that will annoy your examiner, because remember, your future is in the hands of your examiner. You want to use big words? Do so if you are going live on Bigu or Kumu. You want to impress other people, that's when you use big words. But in IELTS writing, IELTS speaking, let's put these big words to the back of our mind. Itago sa baul, so to speak. You want to add something?
If ever you choose to use big words, make sure that you are 100% sure that you know them right. If you are, then good for you. God bless. Congratulations that you know how to use connoisseur or crystalline or periwinkle or bludgeon. Go ahead. But if you're not, short and sweet is better than wrong but wrong. Long but wrong. Wouldn't you say, Sir?
This is exactly why we want you to know that you can make it in the IELTS. It's
Yes.
not supposed to be scary, because what other people teach, you have to display, you have to brandish language like no other.
No.
It's not like that. We bring out the best in you. We can make you pass the examination even without big words, for as long as the words are correct. Now, instead of learning about big words, number 2, make sure you avoid repetition. So this is what we are encouraging. You build your vocabulary by thinking of a lot of words that you can possibly use in your output. I'll give you an example in writing task 1. Don't keep on using the word increase 4 times or 5 times in your output. So instead of always using, let's say, verbs like increase, went up, why don't you think of a noun? For instance, increment. It is a matter of playing with words. We want you to avoid repetition. At the same time, please don't be redundant. Now, someone asked me, sir, what's your opinion of using idioms to get a higher grade in vocabulary? Sir Philip, your opinion on using idioms?
A little goes a long way. 1 or even 2, that is already impressive, as long as you're able to use them in the appropriate manner. If you overdo it, what do you think happens, Sir Urban?
I remember checking writing task 1. Line graph, bar graph, pie chart table. And the student wrote, the line graph shows a silver lining. Line graph? Silver lining? Miss Universe ka, te?
Ching, 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 ching.
Silver lining is not appropriate in writing task 1. If you're able to use that in writing task 2, it's not that stellar anymore because of Catriona Gray's answer. It's gas-gas. That's the point, right?
Fair.
Now, what is it that we want you to do? And I've learned this when I attended this writing workshop in Cebu this time. So, I'm Bisaya, I'm from Davao, but I've gone to several places. Writing workshop in Cagayan de Oro, writing workshop in Davao, writing workshop in Cebu, Baguio, and so on. The examiner there said that, yes, to get a higher grade for vocabulary, you can be a little creative without necessarily using big words. And I cannot forget that example. Instead of writing in the past. So, yeah, in the past, it's correct. It's just that they are the usual words that people use when they pertain to something that is part of history. So, instead of writing in the past, I learned from her, at a time that was. If you look at the 5 words, at a time that was, no big word, right? But when you put these 5 words individually, can be understood by a grade 1 pupil. But if you put the 5 of them together, it's not as if you get to encounter at a time that was every day. So here we are telling you, please forget about big words. Idioms are not necessarily wrong, but like what Sir Philip said, a little goes a long way. You don't have to pepper the entire output with idioms, and it doesn't sound natural anymore. If you want to get a higher grade for vocabulary, this is when we recommend you think of something creative or unusual without the unnecessary idioms and big words. Remember, it's in vocabulary where we get the highest grade already. which means to say an average Filipino already gets a high grade for vocabulary. So what's the point of trying to brandish your command of the language? Dexterity, proficiency, virtuosity in the language. What about grammatical range and accuracy? We divide that into two: accuracy and grammar. Class, instead of thinking of big words, we would rather that you must know when to use in, at, on, by, with, to, for, and so on. What's the problem in Tagalog, our national language? We have a very convenient preposition to use, and that is sa. So, what's the problem with sa in English? Sa is
To,
sa is
at,
sa is
in,
sa is on. Yes, exactly the
It's
point.
more precise in English, these prepositions.
That's what we discuss in class. When to use in, when to use on. So instead of learning about big words, I'd rather that you should know how you're supposed to write the date today. It's March 7. Yeah. So March 7, 2021. Guys, this is how you're supposed to write. Write it correctly. In 2021. In March. In March 2021. But please don't be surprised if we say on March 7. On March 7, 2021. Better that way, that you know when to use in or on. So it's the day that will determine if it's in or on. Okay? What else? What about addresses? When are you going to use in? When you're pertaining to a city, town, municipality, province, state, region, country, continent. When are you supposed to use on if you're pertaining to a street, avenue, road, highway? When are you going to use at if you're dealing with a very specific address? So speaking of specific address, if I may say this in Tagalog, ako at si Sir Philip ay nakatira sa P Road. And then, this is, let's say, sa Block 9 sa P Road sa lungsod ng Pasay. Notice, all of those are sa. But, if we're going to say this in English, Sir Philip and I live at Block 9 on P Road in Pasay City. So there you go. That's what we discussed in class. YouTube will tell you, okay, this is when you're going to use in, on, at. But the superstars on YouTube cannot check your output. And this is why we already have 36 IELTS and OET coaches. And if you came in late, yes, I'm taking this opportunity to announce we are hiring 4 more coaches. 2 IELTS coaches, 2 OET coaches to make it a total of 40. So we're paying 27,000 pesos per month. You decide if that is a competitive salary. If you think you deserve more than 27,000 pesos, you apply as an IELTS examiner. But if you think that 27,000 pesos is good enough for you guys, I mean, that's the starting salary plus the monthly bonus plus the internet allowance and so on. So we're making this public. We are announcing our hiring to ensure that everyone can be accommodated from Monday to Sunday from as early as 9 a.m. Rather 8 a.m. all the way to 5 a.m. the following day. More than 20 hours of available one-on-one coaching daily. So let's have a recap of the 4 criteria in IELTS: writing, task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource or vocabulary, grammatical range, and accuracy. We're doing best in vocabulary or lexical resource, and we need to improve in task response if we want to get the required band score. The national average grade in writing among Filipino candidates as of 2019 is 6.1. So ask yourself what grade you need. Is it lower than 6.1? Go ahead, take the examination tomorrow, because even if you're below average, you will make it. But ask yourself, do you need 6.5? What's 6.5? I should say around 30 to, around 30% of the population. What about 7 in writing? Let's say 10% of the population. It's a matter of knowing what grade you need and how well you fare as compared to the national average and the other examinees. So, in class, we are also going to discuss how you're supposed to tackle the different types of questions like do you agree or disagree, where to write your stand, where not to write your stand, and then discuss both views. What's essentially important for this type of question is how you structure it and you respond to the instruction, which is discuss both views and give your opinion. We're also going to give you an idea how many paragraphs to write. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? How many paragraphs for this side and how many paragraphs for that side? All that and more, because I've noticed it's almost 9 p.m. already. So, now, we're going to announce the lucky winner. Grand prize winner for the month of February.
Yes.
Who's going to win at least 11,000 pesos. 11,000 if it's OET, 11,300 if it's IELTS. Before we announce, I'll give you time to type your questions. Okay, it's 8:52, so we have 8 minutes to answer your questions related to IELTS writing and OET writing. If you can limit to writing task 2, because we're going to have a separate IELTS writing task 1 masterclass on March 28. That's 3 Sundays from now, still 7 p.m. onwards. I don't want to say 7 to 8 p.m. anymore because we have never followed that. For people as talkative as we are, we want to take our time and share everything that we know about the examination. So, let's take a look. Do they have questions?
Regarding that, before questions though,
Okay.
speaking of being talkative, I just wanted to make sure that it is clear that unlike in the IELTS exam where there is a strict word requirement, 150 words for writing task 1 and 250 words for writing task 2, for OET there is no such thing. There is only an approximate number of words that are recommended. OET is letting you know that if you do your information selection correctly, you give the information that needs to be given, and you do not give the information that is not supposed to be given, then your word count will naturally fall under around 180 to 200 words. So therefore, unlike in the IELTS, where examiners literally count your number of words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the paper-based test, or just taking a look at it in the computer-based test, in the OET, no one looks at your number of words. Rather, what your two examiners in Melbourne will be looking at are your ideas. Did she mention the depression? Did she not mention the yoga during the weekend? Things like that. So, I just wanted to make sure that's clear. Maybe now is the time for questions.
Yeah. Melgar Sabularse, is it okay to have an erasure during the writing task? Yes.
Yes.
Another question, Lelani, Babail or Babail?
Avail.
Sa computer-based po, kahit basic computer knowledge lang, yeah, sure. We're not expecting ITs. We're not expecting everyone to be an IT or a computer programmer or a computer scientist.
And there will be a quick tutorial at the beginning before the test begins of how to operate stuff. No?
Oric de la Cruz, word count in computer available for writing. Yes, all you have to do is to look at the lower right-hand side portion of the screen, and there you will find the number of words real time. So every time you type a new word, that is updated. JP Gayoso, will my score be reduced if my letter is all caps in the writing subtest? No. For the record, both IELTS and OET, listening, reading, writing, you may write in all caps, you may write in lowercase. Okay?
Just not Jejemon, like alternates. Like, never do that.
Okay. Oh, from, I don't know if this is Lou or Lai, nakakabusog yung tips. Talaga ba?
Impacho na ba? Patawad naman. Kasalanan pala namin. Tayo mag-adjust.
No, I mean,
Tayo
are you
mag-adjust.
happy with our tips? Imagine this is a free class.
Patawad.
How much more if it's a paid class?
Yeah, I know, right? We are so talkative.
Some of you perhaps have heard of tips or have heard of strategies or insider's perspective that you've heard for the very first time, even if you were preparing for the test for quite some time now. That's the difference when you choose tenured, seasoned, and accomplished instructors. Well, we don't want to claim that we are the best. Humility is everything.
True,
If you think we are the best, that came from you. That did not come from us.
True.
Okay? Let us know your feedback, what you thought of our masterclass, and do we have more questions here? Okay, so all caps answered already. Raw Tines. Idioms are okay in writing. I thought they are considered informal for speaking. It's like this. We're not saying that idioms are wrong. If you want to use idioms, go ahead. But please limit. Because it's not as if it comes out naturally in both speaking and writing. Say, for instance, in speaking, when you talk to your best friend, you don't tell your best friend, hey, you know what? Earlier, in this neoteric era, I went to Jollibee and I bought spaghetti which costs an arm and a leg, and I had a whale of a time. You don't put all of those together and talk to your best friend, right?
Yeah, but definitely if you're able to use them correctly and appropriately, go ahead. But you have to make sure that you're able to use them correctly and appropriately. Otherwise, it does more harm than good.
Okay, here's a question from Honey. Sa IELTS, just like OET, is there an offer which is IELTS at home? For candidates taking the examination in the Philippines, we only have two options for now. It's paper-based test in almost 20 key cities nationwide, and computer-delivered IELTS available in Baguio, Metro Cebu, and Metro Manila. So when we say Metro Manila, there's Ortigas, BGC, and Pasay. So IELTS at home, not yet an option if you're taking the test in the Philippines. Gavin Patawaran, how long is the IELTS exam? Written exams, roughly, or actually, it should be more than 3 hours because of the registration process. And for the speaking test, 11 to 14 minutes. Glynis, sa OET word count po, kasama na ba headings doon or not yet included?
Not yet included. It's precisely as we talked about earlier, that it is the content. It's the ideas that are important. Then it's only the body paragraphs that are included, that are counted for that.
Okay, so here's a comment. I'm not going to mention the name. I took the IELTS 5 times already. I am really excited to be part of 9.09er. It's not how many times you failed. What's most important, we make this your last.
Yes.
I tell you, it's worth the sacrifice. Why? Because nothing good ever comes easy. For easy things are not great, and great things are not easy. You need people to guide you in the process. Well, someone asked us yesterday during the British Council event, what are the guarantees that we're going to pass if we enroll? 9.09er will never claim that we have the highest passing rate. 9.09er will not claim that you're going to pass once you enroll. But what is it that we claim? We work together. We conduct lectures. We conduct one-on-one coaching sessions. We offer review materials. But this is supposed to be a two-way process. You have to help yourself by attending these classes and maximizing the one-on-one coaching sessions. Why? Because God's help those who help themselves. We are teachers. We are lecturers, but we are not magicians. We are not miracle workers. Before, I took it too personally if someone does not get the required band score. But when I met my idol, Professor Rosella Torrecampo of the British Council Philippines, she told me, Irvin, you do not put the burden of the entire Philippine educational system on your shoulder. You are not their grade school teacher. You are not their high school teacher. You've met most of them only now. You can only do so much. But perhaps not every teacher can inspire you in the same way that we are here to offer everything. Like working like a horse for 16 to 18 hours per day. I was even in the hospital right after I was right after my surgery. I asked the OR nurses of Medical Center Taguig, can you please give me my phone so that I can check and respond to the messages? And they did not give me my phone. They said, it's not helpful if you're going to add stress like you are still here in the recovery room. Point. We are here to help. We don't brag that we are the best. You say it if we are the best. But one thing's for sure, we are genuine. We are here to help.
And I would like to point out, if you've failed the IELTS 5 times, and yet here you are, still trying despite failure. I would like to recognize and acknowledge the strength it takes to keep standing up no matter how many times you've already failed. I think that it is critical that you understand that grit and perseverance are the things that would get you through not only review but all the other things that you'd have to go through after you pass your exam. The willingness to keep trying even though it's hard, even though you've failed, just guarantees that eventually you are going to succeed.
Wait lang, here's a comment. Ba't walang nagre-reply sa Facebook nyo ngayon? Eh, kasi andito po, nagsasalita pa po yung nagre-reply, okay? Kalma lang mga ante, hindi ka pa naman siguro mag-IELTS mamayang hating gabi, di ba? So, give me time to respond. Please, don't tell us that we're not responsive because more than a teacher, my work is really, I'm a reply center agent and I'm a chat support officer. Okay, question. Is it true that computer-based IELTS is much easier compared to traditional exam? No, because they use exactly the same material. That's why you ask yourself which one you're more comfortable with, if it's a computer or the paper. Okay, Bien Ocampo. Are punctuations in writing task 1 and 2 important? Yes, because they are part of grammatical range and accuracy. Okay, Honey Letan, do you still have the intensive OET review? Yeah, that's what Sir Philip is here for. Okay, not bragging, but Sir Philip is a nurse by profession. He graduated from the University of Santo Tomas and one of the board top-notchers in the 2008 local board examination.
2009.
Our 2009, sorry. Okay, our instructors are healthcare professionals in OET, to make sure that they understand what the case notes are. Maristela Katigbak. This might be out of topic, but I've been struggling in reading, although I have to work on my writing. Only I had 6, but I need 6.5 to 7. We have a free reading masterclass. One version, my version for 2 whole hours, and another version, Sir Philip and Sir Irvin. Just message me, I can send you the link and the passage. But please don't expect the reply right now because we're still going to eat right after this one.
And how do you improve in reading? By reading.
True.
Yeah, so please read.
JP, is the audio clear in the listening test? Yeah, clean as a whistle.
There will be time before the audio is played for there to be a time check. If ever it's not clear, raise your hand and they'll do something about it.
JR Hiterosa, is there a time to transfer the final words to the test paper? No. Remember that 20% of the candidates cannot finish the actual examination. So, if 20% cannot finish 2 tasks in 1 hour, how much more if you transfer from scratch paper to the answer sheet? What is the recommendation of 9.09er? Begin immediately on your answer sheet and submit whatever you have accomplished after 1 hour. You don't have time to use a scratch paper and transfer. Okay?
Definitely not.
Ashley Concepcion, is the link for tomorrow's webinar the same for the entire day? Yes, that's exactly the same Zoom link to attend the 9 a.m. class, 1 p.m. class, and 6 p.m. class. Sir Philip will be your lecturer from Monday to Friday, this week 1 to 9 p.m. Melgar is taking the examination on Saturday. We wish you the best. You're included in our prayers. Your victory is our victory. Whether you are our student or not, a victory of one Filipino in passing the examination is a victory of IELTS instructors. After all, we are one nation, and if you're able to get that required band score, you will contribute to the Philippine economy by sending remittances back home. That's why mabuhay lahat ng OFWs.
Amen.
John De Mayuga, kailan ang sked ng OET review? Well, we have weekend classes, we have weekday classes. If you missed the live and interactive versions, we have recorded versions uploaded to the dashboard. So, anywhere you are in the world, as long as you have internet connection, you can watch the replays all over again, just in case you miss the live and interactive classes. Lori Lee Wong, what will I do for task 2 topics that I really don't have an idea? Luckily, Lori, and for those of you who are still here and did not leave the Facebook Live session, what are the top 5 topics that come out in IELTS Writing Task 2? Go ahead, get your pen and paper. Here we go. The most common, and it comes out in more than half of the questions for 1 month, people and society. Number 2, technology. Number 3, education. They are the top 3. They come out every month. Number 4 and 5 also come out, but they are not as common as compared to the first 3. So what are numbers 4 and 5? There's government. That's number 4. And number 5, it's economics. So when we say economics, it also includes the spending of people, shops, trade, and so on. We give our reviewees more than 200 writing task descriptions that came out ever since I started teaching IELTS in 2006. Now, students are telling us, so what's the point of giving us old questions? Well, that's because the good news is these questions are recycled. They come out again and again. Now, one reviewee told me, sir, thank you so much that you're so benevolent and altruistic. You've provided us with actual questions. But sir, don't you think it's a lot better if you could also provide us with answers? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Why? Because Sir Brian Martin Shawson's hobby is to come up with writing tasks. So we've compiled his outputs and we provide them to the students. This is not spoon feeding, guys. We are just telling you that we're giving you an idea on how to address these questions, because knowledge is everything.
Do not copy Sir Brian's essays.
True.
But that's an idea of how to go about doing it.
Okay.
Sir Brian is an excellent writer.
Bobby Nicholas, thank you sa tips. I got 7 in writing. Yay! Congratulations!
Good for you, darling.
Marisa Luisa Songkuan, do you have OET review in Dagupan? OET review is available face-to-face at Picampa, España, Manila. If that is not accessible for you, then online review is the option. If we have students from as far as Suriname, Northern Marianas, Egypt, Libya, and majority of the European and Asian countries, then I don't see any reason why someone who's based in the Philippines cannot join our online program. Do you have OET online review for OFW? Yes, that was answered already. Ang taray nang we make this your last. Of course. Would you like to take IELTS on a daily basis? We make this your weekly habit. Every day, 11,300 pesos.
We help make it your last.
Yes.
But we will not be the ones to take the test for you. So, help us help you.
So, Agnes is watching from Qatar. Ang sarap makinig sa inyo. Nakaka-encourage. Well, that's because we are motivated. We are inspired. We cannot last for 2 whole hours talking if in the first place there is no fire within our hearts. This is our impetus that fuels our passion to talk like this consistently from beginning to end. Okay? And with the help of coffee, of course.
Yes. And we have the benefit and the privilege to be surrounded, to have an abundance of first-hand testimonies of people like you who initially struggled, who initially were hesitant in how to do better in the exam, and they triumph nonetheless because they invested the hours, they invested the time and the effort, and are now living much better lives that are much more comfortable than they ever were, because they decided to trust that their future can be something that is better than it ever has.
Vladimir is asking, is it possible to use the word subsequently in OET writing? In IELTS writing, yes, it can be used, but what about in OET writing? What are the chances that a candidate can use subsequently in OET writing?
Please no. Please no. You don't say subsequently so much in charting, right? Maybe perhaps you can say after that or then. So rather than subsequently, maybe a shorter, a much simpler word would be more appropriate in a clinical setting.
E.R. Pascual, do you have an OET writing masterclass? What we did for tonight is a combination of OET writing and IELTS writing, but we shift from one test to another because 99% of the candidates are not yet sure with what to do with their lives, you know. They are certain that they want to go abroad, but is it IELTS or is it OET? That's the point why we are laying down everything, laying all our cards so that you get to have an idea, which of these 2 examinations will maximize my potential of making it.
To help make you make an informed choice, we also have a video on our YouTube channel, which we encourage you to subscribe to have more of the same content.
Okay, Ron Ramos. Intensive review tomorrow afternoon, same sa PM session. Well, the flow of Sir Philip, usually on the first day, orientation, pretest, listening, and reading. And then the following day, Tuesday, writing task 1, 1 to 4, general training, 6 to 9, academic. Wednesday and Thursday, 2 days exclusively for writing task 2. But why 2 days for writing task 2? Remember, we have to bring out the best in you. 9.09er does not believe in spoon feeding. Mind you, I'm usually beside Sir Philip when he teaches you critical thinking. Hindi pwede ang bara-barang sagot. He will bring out the best in you. Make you believe that you can. Make you believe that you are intelligent. Because it has to start from within. How can you convince other people that you have what it takes to pass the examination if you don't even believe in yourself? And that's why writing task 2 lecture for 2 days, Thursday and Friday, and then Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday, speaking.
Then a post-test at the end in order for you to be able to have the opportunity to apply the things that we discussed in the days previous.
Okay, last 4 minutes. Love lots. Do you have speaking online sessions for OFWs? Before, our market, the Filipino market. But because we love our Middle East market so much, now it's 8 a.m. to 5 a.m. Philippine time. Which means to say, yes, there are one-on-one coaching sessions and speaking from 7 p.m. to 12 midnight, Middle East time. I hope that no one is going to look for 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. speaking and writing one-on-one coaching sessions. Why? Filipinos look for something that's not available. Ang hahanapin. Meron po ba kayo nung wala kayo? Parang nga ganun.
True. Konti na lang 7-Eleven na kami, guys.
Okay, James, yes, all caps, acceptable in listening, reading, and writing, both IELTS and OET. Yan, how to start review for OET? Well, our payment options are BDO, BPI, GCash, PayPal. When we receive the proof of payment, we need your email add to so that we can process your enrollment. Agnes Serafin. Computer-based exam, are we provided with a sheet of paper? It's totally dependent on the test supervisor. Some test supervisors provide a sheet of paper, the others don't. That's why it's best that during your review or preparation, you try computer-based mock exams without a sheet of paper because there is no guarantee that all test supervisors will give you a sheet of paper in the actual exam. L.A. Cipriano, is it okay to have erasures on the test paper? Yes. Thank you, Mike Angelo LaGuardia. Macy Padilla, may I ask if there is an IELTS intensive course? Yes, it's this week, Monday to Friday. You missed that? It's on the dashboard. Recorded versions are available. The dashboard right now contains more than 120 hours of recorded classes already. Dashboard is only for enrollees? Yes po, Sir Orica. Meron din po kaming mga binabayarang renta, kuryente, pasahod po. That's why I hope you understand. We're making this very affordable already, okay? We have 40 coaches, not including the lecturers yet. We also have non-teaching staff to feed. But for 4,000 with everything that you're getting, I hope that, yes, this is doing business with a heart. Okay, we don't overcharge. Hello to OET Chicken Curry.
Hello, Chicken Curry.
Yan, how much OET review? 4,000 all in, no hidden charges. Where can we get OET sample case notes for writing? Archie, message me. But kind of expect the reply tomorrow. We still have to, do personal stuff right after this one. Honey Letan, 4,000 all in. Elmer, I wasn't able to start the live. Are you going to have a replay of this? We're going to share this on our page.
Immediately after.
Yeah. Are IELTS exams available in Baguio? Yes. Okay, guys. 9:15, perhaps. Let's call it a night. Once again, this is Sir Philip Edward Aitona. 9 overall band score, 9 in speaking, 9 in reading, 9 in listening, 8 in writing. He's also CELTA certified, which means to say he is qualified to become an IELTS examiner and OET interlocutor. OET grades, perfect A in speaking, perfect A in reading, perfect A in listening, and a B in writing. Irvin, Neil, a temporal in the business in the last 15 years. 9.09ers celebrating our 14th anniversary. That's why we have a promo of buy one, take two, plus the referral incentive. 9 in speaking, 9 in reading, 9 in listening, 8 in writing. Not a nurse by profession, but very thankful for all the nurses. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for what you do. You are the frontliners of the world. So if I'm not a nurse and I'm not an English teacher, I graduated with a degree from UP Diliman, BA Communication Research with an academic standing of magna cum laude. Thank you for your time. I hope we did not waste your time. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you guys.